Everyone, Chloe here, and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, ladies and lurkers, welcome. So today's video is a triggering one and a very long overdue one. And I wanted to have a conversation and a discussion about a feminine woman's role or stance when it comes to being a SJW, otherwise known as a social justice warrior. Now, before I get into solutions on how women can remain in their feminine while being heard, I first want to discuss my often very triggering opinion on women who are on the front lines, keyword front lines, of physical danger when it comes to being a social justice warrior. Now, from the inception of this channel, and I have gotten a lot of triggered and angry pushback from butthurt women, but I have always been pretty adamant about my feminine stance on being a social justice warrior. And since this is a femininity channel, I am of the mindset and thought that femininity and remaining in your feminine do not mesh well with women who dare to put themselves on the physical front lines of social justice anger and rage and confrontation. Now, a lot of women have been tagging me and both asking me to speak on the very unfortunate recent killings of both Ahmaud Arbery and most recently George Floyd. And we all know that there will be more Black men and Black women who are recklessly murdered with impunity. But my mindset has always been that it is very masculine to stand on the front lines of protest by fighting and kicking and screaming and arguing and getting tasered and yelling at police officers. And as a woman who proudly stands in her feminine and who encourages other women to do so, particularly Black women, I consider physical confrontations in protest to be quite unfeminine and manly behavior. And as a feminine woman, I ultimately believe, and some of you are not going to want to hear this, that it is a man's responsibility to strategize, to execute, and to physically fight for his family and his community, and that it is not a woman's job to physically fight a man's battles. And I do not believe that it is a woman's job to put herself in a position to physically fight the battles of men in ways that would put her life in physical harm, jeopardy, or danger. And for those of you who are ear hustling, who come at me with the Fannie Lou Hamer, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman, they died for us guilt shaming narrative, please let it be known that I will always respect the legacy and the sacrifice of the amazing women who have come before us. But today is a new day and a different day. And as feminine women, we do have a bevy of options that will allow us to be heard and not invisible while remaining in our feminine. And I personally believe and feel that the actions of corrective and restorative justice should always be led by men. And I have no interest in yelling or screaming or arguing or punching or kicking in glass windows or flipping over cars that are on fire or being blinded by tear gas. And I understand that my point of view is often not a very popular stance with many outspoken and aggressive Black women, but I wholeheartedly believe that men are supposed to take the lead in using their platforms, their actions, and their voices to speak out and to lead the charge and or fight as leaders in their masculine, because men are supposed to be warriors and men are supposed to have a warrior spirit. Now, as a feminine woman, I despise injustice just as much as any other human being, but I am not interested in investing in the business of stripping away my femininity at the expense of being an unfeminine social justice warrior. Now, in my opinion, the social justice warrior archetype slash identity is a very powerful archetype, particularly with Black women, that often involves standing and dwelling in the toxic and draining emotions of perpetual anger and rage and resentment and feeling crushed and combativeness and powerlessness and thanklessness. And these negative states of emotion are very stripping of a woman's feminine divine, her feminine power, her feminine expression, and overall the quality and the output of her femininity, as these very negative emotions will often require the pull and the drain of a woman building a home in her masculinity. Now, ultimately, for the hard of hearing in the back, it is a woman's choice to physically put herself in harm's way for the greater good of her race and her culture and or her community or for the progress of humanity. But in my personal opinion, being an effective social justice warrior will require a high level commitment and sacrifice of standing in your masculine. And it is up to that woman to decide if standing in her masculine is worth the price of the ticket. Now, as for feminine solutions, here are some of my feminine suggestions for being heard that will allow a woman to remain in her feminine. You can donate money to a cause or a movement. You can buy items whose proceeds can further a cause that you are passionate about. You can volunteer to be a mentor to a young woman and educate her about femininity and becoming a feminine woman. You can write letters or sign a petition. You can boycott. You can make a choice to not financially support a product, a company, or a business that doesn't fall in line with your values. You can stay at home and allow the men to physically protest. You can fundraise for a political candidate or donate to a candidate who supports the change that you want to see. You can support your local community board. You can marry a humanitarian or a wealthy philanthropist and become the wife of a man whose heavy money bag is often required to affect change. And lastly, and I want you to listen carefully, you can make your anger and your outrage very expensive. And there will be a video coming up very soon for this concept. Ladies, you do not need to rage or seethe or froth at the mouth with every injustice that happens because that is very stripping and very taxing on your feminine energy. Instead, always focus on a feminine solution and always remind yourself without shame or apology that it is a man's job to be the muscle and the protector and to be at the front lines of his family and his culture and his community. So that is all that I have to say on this for now. A great example of men who are on the front lines of their agenda are the alt-right men who, as insecure and as racist as they come, and I want you to listen carefully, are not led by women. And 99% of the time, you will not see one white woman arming herself with an AR-15 rifle or fighting by his side or fighting in the lead while he fights his very ignorant and insecure battles. So now it's your turn, ladies and lurkers. Are Black women still physically needed on the front lines of protests? And is it a woman's job to defend the honor of men? And finally, are you currently a social justice warrior? And how is that working out for you in terms of your femininity? Let me know what you liked or didn't like about this video and discuss your triggered thoughts below. And stay tuned for more feminine videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and you lurkers in the next one.